Good evening. I'm Pastor Vernon Shazier, Senior Pastor, River Life Fellowship Church, located in the beautiful Treasure Coast of South Florida, Fort Pierce, Port St. Lucie, Vero Beach. If you're ever in our part of town, we would love for you to join us for in-person worship experience. I promise you it will refresh your soul and inspire you to run on and see what the end is going to be. Thank you for joining me on um, our virtual Tuesday night Bible huddle. The goal is to help you grow in your discipleship, and we have been walking through the books of the Bible this year with the objective to increase your Bible so that you're not living and operating life and trying to walk out your discipleship with a skinny Bible. So often people fall in love with certain books or certain parts of the Bible and they neglect a lot of other parts. So I hope that you are growing as we're walking through these Bible books and doing an overview. In fact, we're going to be looking at book number 20 tonight. Here's a question I throw out. You can respond to it in the chat. So far, again, we've covered 19 books of the Bible in the Old Testament. Which book has been your favorite so far? You can share that in the comment box in the chat. Which book? I've given an overview of 19 books of the Bible, the first 19 books of the Bible. Which book has been your favorite so far? Is there a book that stood out to you the most, or a character in a book that you seem to be able to relate to? Kind of one of those situations where you could easily paint yourself into the portrait, the picture, because it resonated with you that much. Again, which book has been your favorite if you've had one so far? Okay, so tonight we're going to be looking at book 20. We're still in the Old Testament, and we will be looking at tonight and doing an overview of the book of Proverbs. The book of Proverbs. It is the 20th book in the Bible, in the Old Testament. The author is Solomon, is the primary author, with others contributing. Like Psalms, Proverbs was written for all eras to enjoy and was meant to be timeless truths. It's timeless. Whenever you read it, it's timeless. Um, it is called the Book of Wisdom, and it is searched as much today, read as much today as it ever has been for wisdom and guidance and all sorts of uh, dealings and issues and situations of life. A couple of famous versions in verses in the book of Proverbs is Proverbs 3 and 5. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not to your own understanding. Another verse in Proverbs that is a popular verse that is quoted and used is a wife of noble character who can find. She is worth far more than rubies. Those are two of the verses that many people are familiar with or they've heard quote or read in some context. Okay, so I think I want to give this book here the subtitle The Wise and the Foolish. Fundamentally, when you look at the book of Proverbs and read it, I think it's trying to contrast the difference between a wise person and a foolish person. And you'll see that as we dive into it, of how it juxtaposed and try to show you how a wise person thinks, how a wise person go about living their life versus a fool. And so the question we all must ask ourselves is, Do you want to live a life of a wise person or the life of a fool? Proverbs begins with a brief introduction, preface in the first 6 verses. This is followed by a series of 10 different discourses from a father to his son, filled with very practical exhortations on how to face some of the problems of life. That carries us over to the beginning of chapter 10. And so far, there have been no proverbs. But in chapter 10, we have a collection of proverbs that are noted for us as the Proverbs of Solomon, the wise king of Israel, the son of David. When Solomon became king, he did something unique, something that made him stand out then and caused him to still stand out to us today. Uh, Solomon became king and he had a vision of God in which he asked him what his heart desired above everything else. Solomon asked that he be granted wisdom. There's a whole lot of the things he could have asked for. Because he asked for this instead of riches, instead of he asked for wisdom instead of fame, God gave him all three. Therefore, these are the wisdom proverbs of the wisest king that Israel ever had. The second division runs through to chapters 25, which begins another collection of proverbs sayings to be the Proverbs of Solomon, which were copied down by the men of Hezekiah, the king of Judah. After Solomon's death, the book closes with a postlude in chapters 30 and 31 that brings before us the words of two unknown men, Agru, the son of Jakar, and in chapter 30, um, um, Lemuel, king of Massa, in chapter 31. The book of Proverbs expresses the conclusion of the will of man. Together, the books of Psalms, Proverbs, and Ecclesiastics gives us the cry of the soul of man. In Psalms, you have the emotional nature, which is one part of the soul function. Ecclesiastic deals with the function of the mind, the search of man reason throughout the earth, analyzing, evaluating, weighing, and concluding on the basis of what is discoverable under the sun, that is, by human reason. But in the book of Proverbs, we have the appeal to the will of man and the conclusion of his will. Therefore, this book of Proverbs is all about the things man should decide. In other words, the book of Proverbs is about the choices of life. I'm saying it again. The book of Proverbs is about the choices of life. Somebody just put choices in the comment box. And so, again, you will see that it gives you a picture. It paints a picture of the choices that a wise person make and a fool makes. I'm gonna say it again. The book of Proverbs it doesn't try to do anything. It paints for you and I a picture of life's choices. And the choices that it is painting is the choices that a wise person make and a foolish person make. That's why the book of Proverbs is a book that you should read on a regular basis and just meditate on it, because guess what? We are always making choices. Here's the question. Here's the question. Are we making wise choices or foolish choices? This is beautifully set before us in the introduction of the book. First, there is a title in verse 1, the Proverbs of Solomon, son of David, king of Israel. And then we read the purpose of the book in verses 2 through 6. Listen to what it says. Proverbs 1, verses 2 through 6. It gives us the purpose of this book that men may know wisdom and instruction, understand words of insight, receive instruction and wise dealing, righteousness, justice, and equity, that prudence may be given to the simple, knowledge and discretion to the young. The wise man also may hear and increase in learning, and the man of understanding acquire skills to understand a proverb and figure the words of the wise and their riddles. Again, a simple way for you to think about the book of Proverbs is it is a book about choices. Wise choices and foolish choices. That's why I said, I'll give this book the subtitle, The Wise and the Foolish. In other words, this is designed for man in every division and age of his life, from childhood through youth and maturity, in order to understand what life is all about. The book of Proverbs is very practical and is recommended, especially for those who are just beginning to try to solve some of the mysteries and issues of life. Also, if you're just moving out for the first time into contact with the world and its ways and mysteries, this is an excellent book of admonition. Verse 7 gives the key to the whole book. And since Proverbs is the book that deals with life, this is also the key verse to all of life and is one of the greatest verses in the Bible. It states the summary and conclusion of this book. Let me read it to you. Proverbs 1 and 7. Proverbs chapter 1 and 7. Listen to what it says. If I had to choose a verse to summarize everything, this would be the verse. Somebody type in Proverbs 1 and 7 in the comment box for me. Proverbs 1 and 7. Key verse. Important verse. Whichever word you want to, you can put in key verse, important verse, verse to pay attention to. Here it is. Proverbs 1 and 7. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Some versions say wisdom. Listen to the B clause of this verse. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. Now you see why I say this is, in my opinion, the key verse to the book of Proverbs. It is a book about choices. It is a book about making wise choices and foolish choices. And it juxtaposes the two. It gives you example after example of wise choices and foolish choices. And listen to what it says. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge and wisdom. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. This whole book approaches life from the position that God has all the answers. God is all wise. God knows everything. There is nothing that is hidden from his knowledge. He understands all mysteries. He sees the answers to all riddles. He sees below the surface of everything. Therefore, the beginning of wisdom is to reverence and fear God. I'm going to say that again. This book shouts that God is omniscient. He knows all. He sees all. He's above all. He's under all. Therefore, if you want wisdom, if you desire wisdom, if you have a hunger or an appetite for wisdom, the beginning, where you should begin is to reverence God and fear God. Now, The phrase fear of the Lord mentioned in the Old Testament isn't a it's not a craving sort of fear that God is going to do something to you. It's not suggesting that fear, fearing and trembling that God's going to do something to you. No, no, no. There are two kinds of fear. There is the fear that God might hurt you. That's one kind of fear. A fear of experience by those who are trying to run from God. But the fear spoken of here is the fear that we might hurt him. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it again. I don't want you to miss that. You can't miss this. The Bible says you need to reverence, you need to have a reverence and a fear for God. But there are two kinds of fear. There is the fear that God might hurt us, a fear experienced by those who are trying to run from God. You know, I've been doing a series on Jonah. Yeah, this is the kind of fear that Jonah experienced, a fear that, God's coming for me and God's after me. But the fear spoken of here is the fear that not that God might do something to hurt us, but it's the fear that we might do something that will hurt God. That something we do might offend him or might grieve his loving heart in concern for us. In other words, he said, you need to have a fear and a reverence about doing something that will grieve the heart of God. There's so many ways that people define sin. It's missing the mark, it's rebellion, to the divine, but sin is cosmic treason. It's saying that the beginning of wisdom is for you to have enough wisdom and knowledge and understanding and a desire not to do anything and be conscious of not to do anything that will grieve the heart of God, that will hurt the heart of God. This word fear really means reverence or respect. You reverence God and you respect God to a degree that you don't want to do anything that will grieve the heart of God, that will hurt the heart of God. Obviously, if God has all the answers, then the one who has the key to life is the man or woman, boy or girl, who learns early to respect God and believe him and understand that he tells us the truth. I'm going to say that again. The earlier, the sooner, the moment you realize and embrace the idea that God is omniscient and he knows all, he's above all, under all, and he has wisdom, and on this earth he has no equal, then you will reverence him and put your trust in all that he has spoken and speaks in his word. You see, the greatest thing in my Christian experience is that here in the book of God, I have found the truth. I don't know about you. For so many years, I wondered what was truthful. I searched for truth about so many things. And all of us are. People are always searching for truth. What is truth? What does it truthfully really means to be a man? Truthfully really means to be a woman. What does it truthfully mean to be a husband or wife, to be a son or a daughter? What does it truthfully mean to be a husband? What does it truthfully mean to love? Listen, whatever truth you are looking for, you can find it in the Word of God. I can't trust many of the other sources from which I get information and counsel and advice. I have found through very sad experiences, through very painful experiences sometimes, that what I thought was right was wrong. But here is the source of truth. God has spoken, therefore the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. It is not the end. It is the beginning. And only the man who has in his heart a continuing respect for God's wisdom can begin properly to evaluate and understand life. If you don't view God and think of God as the wisest of the wise, the smartest of the smartest, the intelligent of the intelligent, you'll never seek him for real truth. Then, chapter 1, verse 8, we have the beginning of the 10 discourses to a son from his father. They begin with the child in the home, dealing with his first relationship. Then it moves to the time when the child begins to broaden his experience and widens the circle of his understanding and makes friends. There are very wise and helpful words here concerning the youngster's choice of friends, pointing out the powerful influence of friends can have at this age. Yeah. Friends can start having profound impacts on your life at a very early age, and the Bible teaches us this. Therefore, the most important thing for a child to learn as he grows up is how to evaluate and choose his friends wisely. I'm going to say it again. This book of Proverbs, it doesn't matter what stage of life you're in, it gives wisdom to you, whether you're a child, whether you're an adolescent, whether you're an adult, whether you're in your senior years. It speaks to you from the time you're born to the time you close your eyes and take your final rest. Then in chapter 3, we have the young man as he grows up and leaves home, as he makes his way into the city, as he begins to be confronted with all kinds of pressures and temptations. Does this sound familiar with you? Yeah. You go through elementary school, grade school, middle school, high school, and then before you know it, it's that time for you to start venturing and stepping outside of mama, daddy, guardian house into a world that is not as safe and friendly as it is in home. And you need wisdom. A child needs wisdom. A young person needs wisdom. Well, where can they get it? It can be found right here in the book of Proverbs, in the book of the Bible. This young man here is immediately confronted with all kinds of pressure and temptation. There is a thoughtful word of warning here concerning some of the temptations he will meet. It speaks very delicately and yet frankly about the pressures of sex and about what wrong steps in response to these pressures can do to a life. Also, there is an admonition concerning getting involved in wrong financial transactions. These are very practical warnings. The whole of this section is summed up in chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. Let me read them to you. Again, if you want your young people, you want them to start tapping into some wisdom, sit them down, let them read the book of Proverbs. This is a father writing to a son who is transitioning through different stages of life. Listen to what it says in Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust. Here's what you need to say to your young people. You have young people, you have young adults. You have nieces and nephews who's getting ready to transition into college, who's graduating, who may have already transitioned, and they're trying to figure out, and they need a map, and they need some kind of direction. Here it is. Tell them this. Give them this message. It's a timeless truth. Here it is. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not rely on your own insight. There never was more valuable advice given to youth than that. There is no greater advice you can give to a young person than this. Young man, young girl, My brother, my sister, trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not rely, do not lean on your own understanding and insight, because your own understanding and insight is insufficient to deal with the pressures, the problems, the trials, the tests, and the tribulations of this world and this life. In all of your ways, not some, in all, acknowledge him and he will make straight your path. Now, if you're looking for some words of wisdom to drop on a young person, drop Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 on them. You looking for some words of wisdom to drop on your sons, your daughters, your nieces, your nephew, somebody you're mentoring. Look here, young people are out there. You remember when you was that age? You remember when you was 20, 25, 23, 30, trying to figure it out. You thought you had it figured out, but you discovered you didn't have it figured out. You were getting advice from this person and that person. Some of the advice was good, some of it was not so good. Some of it helped you, some of it hurt you. Here's some good advice to drop on young people. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not rely on your own insight or understanding. In all of your ways, acknowledge God and he will make straight. He will direct your path. Now, you've been looking for something to give to young people, a young person in your life. Give them Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Tell them to write it down. Tell them to post it in the bathroom. Post it in their bedroom. Tell them to keep it before them so they'll be reminded when life tests them, when the trials of life touches them. They'll be reminded. Trust in the Lord. Turn to the Lord. Go to the Lord. Seek the Lord. He's the wisest of the wise. This is a word to the young man or young woman who wants to find the secret of life, who wants to be successful. All of us have a young person, know a young person who's interested in how do I become successful? How do I experience success? How do I get to a successful place in my marriage, in my workplace, in my profession as a parent? You want to tell them something and give them something that will put them on a path towards success. Tell them, trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not rely on your own insight, but in all your ways acknowledge God and he will make straight, he will direct your path. I have never yet met young people who didn't want to be successful. In my experience with young people, no one has ever said, my ambition is to be a bum. The way to success is to trust in the Lord with all your heart, and although God has given you reason and expects you to use it, don't rely on your reason and your intellectual property and your knowledge solely. Don't rely on your education for the final answer, where God's word or God's ways have shown you something different. Trust that instead of what you feel. Trust that instead of what you hear. Here's the results now. Verse 6 and 8 gives us the results. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your path. Be not wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and turn away from evil. It will be healing to your flesh and refreshment to your bones. My God. It says this here. If you acknowledge God and you seek God and allow God to direct your path and do not be the wisest of the wise, the smartest of the smartest in your own eyes. Don't think you have it figured out. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one. Have had conversations with young people or with a son or a daughter, a niece and a nephew, and you trying to share some wisdom. You trying to drop some wisdom on them, man. And the words that keep coming out their mouth is, "I know, I know, I know." What do you know? You're 22 years old. You're 30 years old. What do you know? I be one asking, what? Please tell me what you really know. And you get frustrated because you've tried what they're trying. You've went down the road that they're going down, and you already know what the answer and the conclusion going to be. You know how the story going to end, and you're trying to drop wisdom on them, and you're hoping that they will borrow wisdom and receive it, but they seem to have it all figured out. They've joined that club, the smartest person on the planet. And isn't that frustrating? How I wish somebody had given me those verses when I first began to move into adulthood. I wish somebody would have set me down and gave me Proverbs, read it to me, told me to put it and place it somewhere where I can see and be reminded of it constantly. I wish I would have had somebody. No matter how good advice may seem to be, if it isn't consistent with what God has told you, it is not to be trusted. And that is the conclusion that is reached through these opening chapters. Chapter 8 and 9 personify the two ways of life. Wisdom is seen as a beautiful woman, calling those who follow her to come away into the place of victory and achieve and succeed in life, while folly or foolishness, which thinks everything is it does is right in his own eyes, is personified as an evil woman. Let me say it again. In the book of Proverbs, it uses this rhetorical skill we call personification. Personification means to ascribe human attributes to something that is not human. And so wisdom is not human. But look how the writer uses personification. It says, wisdom is like a beautiful woman, and foolishness is like an evil woman. Yeah, yeah. It says, wisdom is like a beautiful woman calling you to come and experience victory and success, while foolishness is like an evil woman, attractive, alluring, tempting us to step aside into death. It is a marvelous, beautiful, poetic passage. Oh, that's an interesting way to think about wisdom and foolish. Wisdom is like a beautiful woman, inviting you to come and experience success and victory. Foolish is like an evil woman that is attractive, but she's calling you to death. Beginning with chapter 10, we have the first collection of the wisdom of Solomon. All very practical words of advice covering every possible situation in life. I love this book of Proverbs. I love this book of Proverbs. Again, it's just so practical and it's simple. You have to make a choice. Do you want to live the life of a wise person or do you want to live the life of a fool? I mean, that's just so simple and basic to me. Now, Proverbs not deep. It's not a deep book to understand. It's an easy book to sit down with somebody and say, listen, I want you to read this book of Proverbs because the question that it really asks is, do you want to be wise or a fool? Do you want to live the life of a wise person or a foolish person? And it gives you examples of how a wise person lives their life, how a wise person thinks. It gives you examples of how a fool thinks and how a fool lives his or her life. Here, read this book. Read a few verses a day. Read a chapter a day. And let me know what you think. Let's talk about it. This is a great book for you to have a discussion with your children or someone you're mentoring. Hey, let's read through Proverbs together and discuss it. It's a very practical, easy to understand book. It's about two people, two kinds of people. A fool and a wise person. Let's read it together and discuss it. Therefore, this is a book that ought to be read again and again and again and again until its wisdom permeates our life, until its wisdom, like blood, flows through the veins of our life. And much of it will be committed to the mind and memory, and you will be able to recall it in times of pressure, in times of temptation, in times when you have to make choice. All right, so the first collection is made up of mostly contrasts in which the writer sets two things side by side and shows the good and evil results of various attitudes and action. As you read this section through, you will see these antitheses. For example, in chapter 10, verse 10, listen to it, so you see what I'm talking about. He who winks the eye causes trouble, but he who boldly reproves make peace. That, of course, is the contrast between the sly, deceitful, that is expressed in a wink, in contrast to the man who frankly and forthrightly speaks his mind, even though what he says is not very welcome, but the result of that kind is frankness, is peace. In other words, this proverb is saying that there are those who they speak with deceitfulness, conningness. It's like there's a wink in their eye. There's a wink about them. You can't trust them. And then there are those who speak truth and straightforward. Let me give you another example. In chapter 10, verses 26, it is it is a very impressive proverb. Listen to this one. Like vinegar to the teeth and smoke to the eyes, so is the slugger to those who send him. Lean in, parents. Any parent who has sent his child on an errand and the child has wasted time along the way knows what this means. As vinegar sets the teeth on edge and smoke burns the eyes, so is the man who is entrusted with a message who wastes time or moves slowly along the way. Mm-hmm. Let me give you another one. Like a gold ring in a swine's snout is a beautiful woman without discretion. Wow. Can you imagine that? An ugly pig with swell dripping from its mouth and a gold ring in its nostrils. It's a gold ring that signifies value, but in the wrong place. And what it's saying is, so is a beautiful woman who hasn't learned that beauty is not the outward form, but the inward beauty of the spirit. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Proverbs has a lot of wisdom for you. It says there's some wisdom, there's some women who think that beauty is all about outward appearance. Women who thinks that way, a woman who thinks that way is I'm just it's the Bible. This is what the Bible said. It's like an ugly pig with a beautiful gold ring in a nose. Yeah, because she think it's all about the outward. But what matters the most is inner beauty. Mm. Mm. Are y'all starting to like this book? I love it. I love it. I'm telling you, it's a book you can sit down and talk with young people and old people with. Listen to this one. One man gives freely, yet grows all the richer. Another withholds what he should give and only suffers want. Here's what we're learning here. There is the value of generosity over stinginess. Yeah. I'll read it again to you. It's Proverbs 11:24. One man gives freely, yet grows all the richer. He's a giver. He gives freely, and it leads him to where he always has. Another withholds and doesn't give when they should give, and they always suffer want. Do you know some people like that? You may know some people like that. They're stingy, they're selfish, and they always seem to be in a place of want. They're takers, they're not givers. Some of you may have some people like that in your life. You may have some friends or family members like that this proverb is talking about. They're takers, they're selfish. And as a result of being a chronic, selfish taker, they seem to always be in want. In this situation, Proverbs is talking about the difference between a person who is generous and a person who is stingy. Can I give you another one? A good wife is the crown of her husband, but she who brings shame is like rottenness in his bone. Ooh, these are self-explanatory, aren't they? Some of these I don't have to do a whole lot of exegetical expound on them too much. Verses 16 through 22 give a little discourse on the tongue and the dangers of the blessings of it. Listen to this. The vexation of a fool is known at once, but the prudent man ignores an insult. That is, a fool blurts out what he feels and never tries to control him or herself. He simply reacts to everything that comes along. But the prudent man learns to control him or herself, ignoring insult and moving to the heart of the matter. In other words, a fool always reacts off of emotions, very impulsive. Don't engage in the critical thinking. Don't analyze the situation. It's just they react quick in this, all off of emotions. But a prudent person, they're not easily controlled and able to be thrown into a place of fit or rage by people's word. Mm-hmm. Chapter 12, verses 18, 19, and 22. Listen to what it says. There is one whose rash words are like swords thrusts, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. Truthful lips endure forever, but a lying tongue is but for a moment. Um, I know, um, I know we've did several classes on from the book Taming the Tongue. Here, listen here. If you want a verse that speaks directly and gives you a summary, gives you the thesis, the big picture of what Taming the Tongue is about, here it is. Here it is. Proverbs 12, 18, 19. There is one whose rash words are like sword thrusts, like somebody thrusting a sword into you. But the tongue of the wise bring healing. In other words, it says there's some people who words, when they speak them, it's like they're pushing a sword into you. But a wise person, when they speak, their words bring healing. Listen what it said. Truthful lips endure forever, but a lying tongue is but for a moment. Proverbs 12:22 says, lying lips are an abomination to the Lord, but those who act faithfully are his delight. God does not like lying lips. You know, I remember when I was a kid, man. One of the worst things you could do was tell a lie to your parents or to an adult. They give you that speech. I don't know, it depends on your age. Or you got caught in a lie. They'll tell you, they make you feel so bad. If you lie, you don't want to be a liar, because if you a liar, if you lie, you will steal. And if you steal, you will kill. You don't want to be a liar, son. Whatever you do, don't you be no liar, because you can't trust a liar. A liar is no good. I tell you again, if you lie, you will steal. And if you steal, you'll kill. Anybody ever got that speech? Put in the comment box, say, I got that speech. It made you feel so bad about lying, because basically they were saying is that Any person who lies cannot be trusted at all, and there's no telling what they will or won't do. Mm. Proverbs 13:24. He who spares the rod hates his son, but he who loves him is diligent to discipline him. My goodness, sometimes we wonder how a 20-year-old, a 30-year-old, a 40-year-old, or a 50-year-old became the person that they are. Sometimes the behavior of a 50, 60, 40, 30, 20-year-old can be traced in how they were parented and raised when they was 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 12 years old. This proverb is saying that a wise person delights in giving discipline, structure, and guidance to their child. To not do so, it's like hating them. That's, oh man, that's strong. So giving guidance, discipline, setting barriers is like it's like showing them love, and that's what a wise person do. But but to have no barriers, to have no rules, to refuse the discipline, to let a child do whatever he or she wants to do, it's to parent that way. It suggests that it is an act of hatred. That's a strong statement, but it's true. God disciplines his children because he loves them. That is the basis for saying this hurt. I don't know if you heard this too, but I heard it. That was the basis for our parents, grandparents, when they used to say, "This hurts me more than it does you." Now, been across that bed. Or, "You can't go out tonight." Or, "You can't go out and play." Or, "You can't have any company." Or, "No television." For some parents, it appears that it pains them to discipline and give their children order and structure. But I'm telling you what the Bible says, not Shazier. If you neglect to give your child structure and discipline and place some order and boundaries in their life, you can have some problems down the road. Mm-hmm. Some of these proverbs, are they resonating with y'all? How much time I got? Let me see. Can I give you some more? Let me give you one more. Let me give you one more. And this is one of my favorite. Somebody put in the chat Proverbs 14:12. Proverbs 14:12. Just put in there pastor's favorite. Proverbs 14:12. It says, "There is a way which seems right to a man." But its end is the way of death. Some version says there's a way that seems right to man, but in the end, there is destruction. And how often we think that we know the answers, but the whole counsel of this book is that our own reason and wisdom is never enough. That's what I want you to get. I've given you quite a few, but one of your takeaways that I want you to get tonight is that your wisdom is not enough. Your knowledge is not enough. Your intellect is not enough. You can read 10,000 books a week. You will never have enough wisdom. It will never be enough. Therefore, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding. And in all your ways, acknowledge Him and let God direct your path. What I'm saying to you is trust in the Lord and lean not to your own insight and understanding. Listen to me. I read on average 2 to 5 hours a day. I'm a reader. I'm a learner. I love reading. I love learning. But I have enough sense to know that I can never read enough books to master life, to figure out how to handle all life issues. I can never read enough books that will give me what I need to always make the best decision, the right decision. I have enough sense that I realize that I need a power, I need a wisdom that comes from up high, from above. I need somebody I can turn to, and that somebody is God, and I can turn to Him by way of prayer, and so can you, and I can turn and seek Him out through His word, and so can you, because I cannot lean on my own understanding and knowledge. It's not enough. It's insufficient. It's folly. It's foolish. Choices, 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 decisions, decisions, decisions. We have to make them every day. And if you are trying to live life, which is full of choices, 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 decisions, 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 and you are not leaning and seeking God's word, wisdom, and advice, you're living as a fool. A wise person, there's so much, there's so much. But again, this is a great book to read on a regular basis. This is a great book to have a conversation with friends, family members, especially young people who want to know, how do I succeed in life? Who need to know who wants to know, how do I make good decisions in life? How do I choose my friends? How do I choose my job? How do I know, oh my goodness, they got to figure out how to navigate all through this life. And all that life throws at them. A great book to refer to them is the book of Proverbs. Well, listen, I hope I've said something. I hope my overview of this book have made you interested in it and caused you to develop an appetite to want to read it and to share it with others and read it with others, particularly your children. If you be so kind, as always, will you post your takeaway in the comment box? What's your takeaway from tonight's Bible Huddle? I want to remind us that the month of August, I will be taking a break to get revived, refreshed, and to do some study and preparation to finish strong in the fourth quarter. And so there will be no Bible Huddle the month of August. Yes, sometimes even the pastor need a break to get refreshed and be ready to run with strength and might. And so let me see what y'all posted. Miss Gwen, God has touched you. I can see it. Yeah, pray that He keeps His hands on me. Studying Proverbs will help me make wise choices. Seek wisdom from God, Brother Ike. Sister Darlene, my wisdom is not enough. Hey, that's my taking up right there, Sister Darlene. Sister Darlene, I've been saying that for quite a few years. That my wisdom is not enough, and again, there's not a whole lot of people on this planet that read more than I read, but I have enough sense that even though I read 3 to 5 hours a day, have multiple degrees, my wisdom is not enough. And if I don't lean on God and seek God, I'm then making a decision, a conscious decision. I'm going to say this as I close out. When you refuse to engage God, seek God, lean on God, accept God's wisdom, truth, and advice, you have simultaneously made a conscious decision to live the life of a fool. Mm. When you reject the wisdom and the truthfulness of God, you have made a conscious decision that you prefer to live the life of a fool. Well, I hope that's not true. I hope you will trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge Him and allow Him to direct your path. Allow Him to influence your choices, and your decisions. Thank you for um, investing in your spiritual life and spiritual development. That's what you're doing when you plug into Bible Huddle. Please share this Bible Huddle with those that are part of your virtual world. Maybe something that's shared or was said that will inspire them and help them. Hey, as always, have a champion week the rest of your week. I'm Vernon Shazier, a.k.a. the Gospel Cowboy. Have a